My name's Aiden, and I'm a cook.
My name is Trevor Thaler. I've been in service industry for about 25 years now.
There wasn't anything that drove me to it initially. I was 18, wasn't going to college, wasn't really doing much. Was working in a diner, just stuck with it for too long.
First ever job was a dishwasher, and I worked my way all the way from that in the back of the house to front of house, GM. I've done anything in between: bartending, managing, serving, busing, chef. Moved here to New Orleans to start a restaurant and still in the industry.
I was a little older. Didn't have any skills other than what I'd been doing. Hated it. Didn't enjoy it in the least, but it's what I knew how to do. Got better at it over time. Worked at a lot of different places, varying quality. Worked everything from diners, like I said, to shitty dead-end bars. I worked nicer Italian fine dining, everything.
I think back of house employees are underpaid, and I would say that front of house employees are underpaid or undercompensated as well.
The pay gap between back of house and front of house is inflamed. How much shit we go through just on a daily basis for significantly less pay. On a bad night for front of house, they're might be making a quarter of what they usually make. As far as stories go, I have too many to even begin to sort through. Nightmare scenarios, especially. Everything from people being locked in coolers to executive chefs being fired right before Mardi Gras starts, like the Sunday before Mardi Gras starts.
Any of a number of stories. I guess my favorite one is when I told a new line cook that he needed to recycle the air in the walk-in cooler. So I gave him a large trash bag and sent him to the cooler and told him to get all the old air out of the cooler and then put new air in. And it took him about 45 minutes before he realized I was messing with him.
Diner I worked at when I was starting out, we used to play this game where we'd spray Pam spray into our hands, make a pool of it, light it on fire, and chase the busboys around with burning hands. That was always a lot of fun.
Nightmare scenario. Just unexpectedly hit on an off night, like on a Tuesday night out of season, and suddenly we have more covers than we do on a busy night, and you don't have the stock for it because you order according to how busy you think you're going to be, otherwise you're wasting. And then we have to do our best to feed that many people and keep people happy and coming back. So
we've had junkie hunts where we had these dope heads who are nodding out over fucking fryers and shit, putting themselves and other people at risk all fucking night for weeks or months on end, then go missing one night and having to search an entire 4-story building, every fucking nook and cranny, trying to find their ass. Front of house are definitely more akin to contract workers than anything. They don't really work for the restaurant. They work for themselves, which is beautiful. It's an amazing thing. But with that comes comes a certain sense of disdain. Not wholly, there's always exceptions. But generally you find that front of house thinks themselves above the people in the back. I think tip sharing, front of house sharing their tips with people in the back, it's a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's the solution. I think it's a band-aid for a larger problem.
I don't necessarily have a problem with it. My only real problem is the back of the house would have to contribute more to the front of the house experience as well. They do get an hourly wage, which oftentimes is less than what the server's making, but they are the face and the reason that people are coming back, I feel. Honestly, I think back of house should just get paid more and front of house should just get benefits as well. Hourly employees end up getting benefits, and that would really just make it sustainable to be a restaurant employee, because otherwise it's really not.
I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous that it can be illegal for front of house to be mandated to share their tips with the back. Not even just being mandated, but sometimes how the law is applied, you just, even if it's your own choice, you're not legally supposed to share your tips with the back. It's some kind of conflict of interest with income
Well, so some places, if they are a proper hourly employee, they can't force the tipped employees to pay or to share their tips with an hourly employee, because that tipped employee's wage is being made a legal wage by their tips. So in order to force them to share, they could potentially drop below the minimum wage of that state or that area, and that then is illegal. And most places that where that is the case, they just choose not to go with it, just so they don't ever have to risk that being a thing.
When you have front of house or general managers who have zero kitchen experience in their entire lives, can barely flip a fucking egg on the flat, trying to delegate issues in the back when they have absolutely no idea how anything operates at all. It's an entirely different culture.
A lot of restaurant employees don't end up getting proper training unless they're in a very higher end or bigger corporate restaurant, because it's regimented. In other most common restaurant settings, you're not getting the training you need to know the things you need to know in order to be a good employee. There's also not a lot of not necessarily consequences, but I guess consequences and rewards for doing a poor job or a good job, so that you build a good system of what is expected and what is good. So a lot of times you're understaffed and you don't know the proper systems to do what you need to do in the most efficient way. So you end up just doing what you can and putting out a subpar product or subpar service because you don't have all the tools you need. And management, that's their job, is to give you the tools to succeed.
Biggest improvement management could do is to fuck off. But seriously, the biggest thing they can do is, at least from high up, have to sit through the shit. How do you have empathy with what anyone is doing if you've never been through that yourself? I think the biggest difference between New Orleans and other places throughout the state, as far as working back of house, pay is the biggest one. There's an attitude, certain attitudes, a lot different. But that's, I think, comes with the culture of being and moving anywhere, being from somewhere.
One thing I've noticed, so they call it the Big Easy, and there is definitely less hustle and less sense of urgency here in employees and everything. I just noticed that people don't have that kind of, I don't want to say work ethic, they just don't have the hustle. They don't have that willingness to just kind of up the pace just a little bit, just a quicker step, just a little bit. It'll save you so much trouble, so much time. And I try to teach that to people as well, but I think it's part of the culture here, unfortunately. So sometimes that service is slower, or my staff doesn't have the hustle that I would like them to get it done. Because if you hustle and get it done, then you have so much more downtime in the end.
The nightlife is a lot better. I mean, you can get out of work at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and things are still open.
It's an understood industry. I don't want to say underappreciated, because people do appreciate the service industry and the food. A lot of people just don't get what goes into it and the amount of work that actually has to go into it. The hustle that you're doing. Yeah, sure, I'm not lifting 100-pound bags of things every day, but I am putting in a lot of hustle, a lot of work on my body, and also just the knowledge and the memory and the information I know about the food and the drink that I'm serving to a guest is something they may not know, and probably never will unless they're told by somebody in the industry. And that's the work that we that are serving and handling your food put in all the time, where we're constantly learning these things, maybe not through seminars like people in other industries do, but just through talking with our coworkers and experiencing the food and the drink.
For whatever reason, we all found ourselves there together. And there's a certain sense of brotherhood in that, sisterhood, familiarity.
I think just, next time you're at a spot and it's a little slower than you want, just understand there's a lot of work that goes into it. So cut people a break sometimes. That's all.
The entire shift every day is just an adrenaline rush. And if you're not having anything to come down at the end, you're just left in this limbo.